I was very close to, I had a gun in my mouth and I was very close to pulling the trigger. And for some reason, I thought about some of the things that you say in your show and I didn't go through with it. And as a result, my two boys have their father. And I was just like, you know, I had the goosebumps and you know, it almost brought me to tears. Well, thank you for coming down here today. I know you came all the way from Sherman Oaks.
True.
And you were doing the true Sensei thing. You were teaching a class, and then you came right over here to my dojo, and I do appreciate you being here.
It's my honor. Thank you very much, Sensei.
And thank you to Luca and Martial Arts Unleashed for helping make this happen, bringing us together. Awesome. And I just wanted to, you know, say I really, really have looked forward to meeting you in person. We've kind of met each other on the periphery in years past. And I have watched your videos, and I think that you do a really great job, really, really empowering and productive content. That being said, perhaps we should draw the first question, sir.
Let's do it.
Do you mind doing the honors?
Oh, may I? Yes.
What does it say, Sensei?
I was hoping this would be a recipe for chicken noodle soup, but it is not. Where do you see a student who has gone through your training in 5 years? Where, do you want to start with that? If you have a student, and they've been with you for 5 years, where do you see them?
Well, you know, on a physical level, I'm hoping that they have, obviously after 5 years, they have some sort of commitment, or at least their parents do. I know me, I wanted to quit, like, I was a kid and my mom was like, no, you're going to stay with it, you know. And, you know, I think she saw the potential there. She said, you know, at least you're brown belt, at least get your black belt, and then you can quit. And after that, I was kind of hooked, you know, influenced by obviously Bruce Lee and people like that. And then when I had the proper role models, you know, including my senseis, I was like, oh, this is great, you know. And so I hope that after 5 years, they have developed their own sense of self-discipline, their own sense of self-accomplishment, that they have, you know, belief in themselves. Obviously, they have their strong commitment there, and that they've also developed physical skills, you know, the ability to protect themselves, the ability to hopefully diffuse a situation if need be, having enough confidence and poise not to fight unless they absolutely have to. And, you know, I'm also hoping that a big thing for me is respect for others, you know, honoring other people, honoring tradition, and being open-minded. That's what I hope for my students in 5 years.
Jeez, boy.
That was a mouthful. That almost took me 5 years just to say that.
That was incredible. I think you covered legal responsibilities, insurance responsibilities. That was good citizens. That was the best answer ever. I can't add anything to that. But yes, I think the one theme I would pick up on there, I agree, of course, with all of that. Respect, yes, absolutely. And after the 5 year mark, I would hope that they've really figured out how to start making the art their own.
Yes, sir.
And that's not about, well, creating your own style. You don't need a teacher anymore. But at the 5 year mark, you've had enough. Hey, here's how your body can be strong. Here's you breathing. Here's you being tough. Here's you being brave. Here's you starting to solve problems on your own.
Yes, sir.
Because whatever we learn in a school, it's always somewhat sterilized. And out there in the real world, they're going to have to come up with their own answers. So at the 5 year mark, I hope that they've started to make that transition from chasing a belt or trying to be the best in the class, and they start seeing the reward just coming from, hey, I think I can figure some things out on my own without the teacher. And as a good teacher, I think you have to let them have some of that space to let them figure that stuff out or put their little spin on things, because we're all so different. And a good teacher should recognize that and encourage that to come out so that the art emerges and not just some kind of martial robot that you created. So at the 5 year mark, I would definitely expect, if not a little sooner, that they can start surprising you with like, whoa, that was a cool way to do that. Oh, hey, I like how you modified that to fit your body. So I think that was the only other thing in addition to all the great stuff that you put on there. So,
well, I also think, I'm hoping that, you know, after 5 years, they also realize that they're just scratching the surface. You know, 5 years is a great investment, and, you know, you can get really good in 5 years and know a lot, but hopefully you also know that you don't really know. And, you know, if they wish to pursue martial arts for a lifetime, then, you know, 5 years is like just scratching the surface and just the beginning. And the more you know, the more you realize you don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. So where do you see them? If that's the question, then I hope I see them still curious.
Yes, sir.
Whether that's with me or without me. As a good teacher, again, I would encourage them to just find that place that stimulates their curiosity and makes them want to continue learning. I just had a student today, actually, who's been with us for 10 years.
Wow.
And he sort of aged out of that program. And one of the final things he said was, I really want to keep learning. I want to keep going. And I'm just, and then of course I try to offer whatever guidance I can. And of course we'll probably stay in touch on the side a little bit. But I loved hearing that. To me, that was like, oh, that's wonderful. Because you've built up so many skills and confidence and you're a great young man and you're still curious. You're still humble enough to say, and I want more. So I think that's just wonderful. So 5 years, how about 10 years? Yeah. At 10 years to still have that, I think you did something right to keep them curious and learning. That's great.
Is he going off to college now?
He's, no, actually, it's just high school that's becoming difficult.
Oh, of course.
And just very busy and other stuff going on.
Yeah.
But he still wants to make a little time on the side for it. And I encourage him, of course, to search, go into a school. I'm not one of those guys like, no, well, if you don't train with me, then I don't want to hear from you. You're blacklisted. We recognize as teachers that you can't be all things to all people all of the time.
Yes, sir.
So you serve your purpose when you're with them, give them as much as you can, and then ultimately it's to keep them training, not to just necessarily training with me. That's where the ego would come in. So I'm very happy to help give him advice or advise him and help him get into a place where he feels comfortable and challenged and to keep growing. So yeah, good.
Well, that's great to hear because coming from the old school, the mentality was different, and it was, we've had masters who, well, if it doesn't come from me, if it's not from our system, it's no good. And, you guys are traitors if you do that. And I don't believe that. I believe that, like you said, we can't be the be all and end all of everything martial arts and all sage wisdom. So, hopefully they can learn as much as they can, continue to learn. And, if they get it from other sources and, wherever that may be, and it might even be from a book or from a video and say, oh, where'd you learn that? Oh, I'm reading this cool book, and it's like, oh.
Get out.
Cool.
Book.
How dare you?
People still read? That's amazing.
Well, I think there's a bit of a misunderstanding because people say, well, you can't learn martial arts from a book. And it's like, well, yeah, I mean, you can't they sit there and go, okay, now I've read this book, now I have black belt knowledge,
Right.
But I've gotten many of my insights from books, and some of them aren't even necessarily books on martial arts, but they might be like, oh, you know what? Wow, that guy was really committed, and that guy didn't give up, or this woman, nobody gave her a chance, and she totally, through hard work and not giving up, achieved what she wanted to achieve, and that's something that I bring into my martial arts practice, and hopefully I can impart that to the students that I get to share with.
That makes total sense. Learn from everybody, learn from everything. Absolutely. So I concur, sir.
Thank you.
Did we conquer that first question?
I think we did.
Give me a high five. I think we nailed that question.
Awesome. Okay,
Back
good.
to the hat. What do you got?
Back to the hat.
Your turn.
Okay.
Dun, dun, dun.
There's a part of me that's kind of nervous.
Yeah, I know. What's going on here?
I'm kind of, I hope I get a good one.
Yeah.
How do you inspire confidence in a student who doesn't believe in themselves? How do you inspire confidence in a student who doesn't believe in themselves? You know what? I like to take little steps and introduce little things. And if you can take, they say, I think this came from originally, I heard it from Les Brown, who heard it from Robert Schuller. And he said, by the yard, it's hard, but inch by inch is a cinch, And I went, oh, I really like that.
That's nice.
And, if you just take a little step, just getting them to, this is how you tie your belt. This is the proper etiquette. This is how you bow. And here's something really simple that you can do. You can, this is a hammer block. This is a cover. This is how you palm strike, and it could be just something as simple as that. Or maybe something as simple as, hey, let's work on breathing. Let's teach you how to breathe. And that can be, open up, a huge treasure chest of, wonderful knowledge. And I just think just little by little, and then add on to that, and then pretty soon it's like they started off knowing a little bit, and now they know a lot. If you can get them confident in just one little thing, then they can eventually become confident in a lot of things, and eventually they just are a confident person.
Right.
That's what I believe.
Perfect answer. I love that. Are we giving out stickers? Do we have some? I need to give you some.
Yay! I don't have to go to Trader Joe's. Yay!
I agree 100%. You want to find, every student's different. So what that first step or second step might be that makes them feel like, oh, I did something, as simple as tying a belt or making eye contact or raising their hand.
Yes, sir.
Depending on how young they are, or maybe as how old they are. And then the second tier of that, I think, 100%, yes, give them something they can accomplish. And the second part, I think, is also setting up situations and experiences where they solved it for themselves, or so they think. So you load an experience for them to say, geez, well, this guy's on top of you. What can you do? And they struggle or they flail. Maybe they have a crisis of confidence. But you already know you're leading them into, well, I don't know, can you use your hands? No. I don't know, what's bigger than your hand? Well, your legs. Oh, well, okay, try that. Let's see what happens. And then they do something, and you're there as the teacher, not to tell them what to do, but to reward them for discovering something on their own.
Gotcha.
And of course, you set it up, which brings us to the idea that as a teacher, really good teacher, I think, you have to see yourself as kind of like a matchmaker between the material, martial arts is so awesome, and the student, and not try to interject yourself in the middle all the time, like, okay, student, listen, I'm gonna bring you this from the world of martial arts and give this to you. See how I'm involved with this?
Yeah.
I gave that to you. As opposed to, I'm gonna see what I can do to put you two together. I'm a matchmaker here. So you need this, here's a tool for martial arts that can give you that, whether it's confidence or fitness or whatever, and I'm gonna step back a little bit, put you two together, let that interact, and when they kind of move towards the goal themselves, I think that builds even more confidence. They go, I figured that out today. I did that.
Gotcha.
And you're in the background just going, yes, you did. So it's the same idea. Give them appropriate goals for where they are in their lives. And whenever possible, try not to lord over them that I gave you that. Remember when I showed you that? No. Like, remember when you figured that out? Remember when you accomplished that? And then I think you've got a perfect formula for slowly building up their confidence.
100%. I think that that's a really good point you made about letting them discover or think they discovered it on their own, because that's such a confidence builder. It's like, oh my gosh, look, and maybe they genuinely did. I certainly know that sometimes students have surprised me, perhaps asking me a question about, what does this particular move mean in Pasai Sho? And then, I go into like black belt teacher mode. It's like, well, it could be a wrist grab, it could be this, it could be this. And they're like, do you think it could be just grabbing somebody's head and uppercutting them? And I'm like, it's like a 10-year-old just schooled me, and, they came across, I didn't teach them that. They came across that on their own, they discovered it on their own, and they in turn taught me,
That's awesome.
And the greatest teachers are your students. When the student is ready, the teacher will appear is the old phrase, but I believe when the teacher is ready, the students will appear.
Beautiful.
So I totally agree with that, being able to let them discover things on their own. And there is a tendency sometimes for we as teachers to be like, like always wanting to teach and not letting the process sort of unfold organically.
Right.
100%. That's, thank you for reminding me of that.
We're learning from each other. This is great, yeah.
And I think also, sometimes it doesn't always have to be, they win from success. Sometimes it's like, no, you're going to learn more from your quote unquote failures, or maybe you're not going to get this right now. That's going to teach you something. That's going to teach you patience. That's going to teach you commitment. That's going to teach you determination, right? And eventually you will get it, or you won't. But you're going to learn from that and hopefully improve from that. And if they can stay the course and realize that the learning curve is not always, sometimes it's, and then there's the plateau, and then you're going to hit that valley for a while, and then it's like, just stay the course. And they don't realize that it's going up gradually, so gradually, and then at the end they're like going, oh, wait a second, I got to the top. How did yeah, you did, because you stayed the course. Even though it didn't look like you were. It looked like you were like way down in the valley, but you didn't realize that the plateau was just leveling out little by little. And I think that's a really great way to build confidence also, like, over the long term. Not just like, hey, I learned this trick, but I learned the tools in order for me to do this long term. As a practitioner and as a way of life, as a philosophy, as the way that you think all the time. You don't have to think about it anymore. So that's
hard because, like you said, when they have a success, then that's easy for them to go, oh, this is great, system's great, teacher's great, school's great, I'm great. Confidence comes. For them to have a relationship with the teacher, to nurture them and support them through a quote-unquote failure, or they didn't succeed, so that they still have the faith to come back and try again, it's very hard to convince a student, like, hang in there. In the long run, this is going to pay off. Someday, this will pay off. especially for younger students. That's very difficult for them to have faith and trust in that. They want the win right now. That's an older person's wisdom to know that, no, keep losing for many years. Eat bitter. This is the tradition we all go through. It's kung fu. You got to work hard for a long time. And that's a lot of failure. But then it pops up a level. Then you're going to plateau for a while. So for you to be a person or a role model, to let them know it's okay to fail, which I think, again, as a good teacher, you allow them to see you also experimenting. You allow them to see you fail. It's okay to slip and fall when you throw a kick once in a while. It's okay to, miss the bag once in a while, even if you have to do it on purpose, just to set the tone in the class, like, I'm not perfect. I'm still practicing. Class comes in and purposely be practicing while your students are coming in for the next class. So they see, what are you doing? It's like, oh, he's practicing. Hang on, I'm working on something over here. When they see that you're actively a student as well, then that already subconsciously puts it in their brain like, oh, it's okay to fail. It's okay to practice. Sensei does. So just another layer of that. Yeah, I agree.
Well, you mentioned you've been practicing Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu for about 12 years. And, as you know, there's a lot of tapping that goes on when you study
When I do it, there is.
And you learn more. You have to go in with the idea that yes, you're going to get tapped, and you get tapped, you get tapped, you get tapped. Sometimes you tap somebody, but you can't become great at jiu-jitsu unless you get tapped a lot. Right. And that's one of the great things about what I love about jiu-jitsu also is that it will humble you, and don't give up though. It's like, oh, you got tapped 3 times. Well, how come you didn't get tapped 5 times today?
Yeah, that's exactly right. 100%. At first you come into it and you fear the tap, like, oh no, I'm a loser. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm incompetent. Everyone's going to laugh. And then you see everybody's tapping at some point, and you go, oh, that's not so bad. So it's nice. It's a group experience. We're all failing constantly. And it's going to happen again in another minute. Hang out 30 seconds. Oh, here it happens again. So eventually it just doesn't have any meaning other than, oh, now I'm a little tougher tonight. So you start measuring your success in a different way. It's not did I make him tap or did I tap? It's I got through the whole class tonight. I got through a half an hour, a 45-minute roll. It's like, oh, that's pretty cool. So now I don't care about the tap. I recognize that that's just common, and everyone does. Whereas maybe in stand-up sparring, if only one person gets knocked out in a whole year, or there's an accident in the school, someone hit too hard, oh my God, I got knocked out, then that person might feel like a failure forever because he's never seen that happen. It's like, well, that's not the measurement is you really lost big. If everyone's getting knocked out every class, no, am I promoting everybody getting knocked out? Nope. That's why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is so powerful and popular. Because you can have your failures on a somewhat safer basis. I think it's harder to do that with stand-up. But that's great. That's why I participate in the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. That's my character builder. Has nothing to do really with the self-defense stuff. That's a separate conversation. It's really, for me, a safer way to build my personality and get over my ego and start to measure the proper things in all of my training. So, yeah, it's pretty profound, I think.
How did you meet Rigan Machado?
Oh, that was just one of those friend of a friend situations. I'd started informally with Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu because everybody has to at some point in this day and age. And so I spent a year kind of doing seminars and had some friends who were into it, so I had some informal rolling. And then after about a year, I had a friend who was already a student there and said, well, you should just come to Higan's. He's right down the street. And I didn't even know who he was. I'm like, okay. And then I came in, and a great group of people, and he's a very welcoming and generous teacher. So I just got along, and I've just hung out ever since and accrued what I can. So,
have you met Roger, his brother?
Yeah, he's come in a couple of times,
He reminds me of, like, I like to call him the George Clooney of the Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu world, because he seems like he's kind of like a cool, suave dude, but I like the fact that he's also incorporates yoga into his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practice as well. I've never actually met him. I've met the other 4 brothers, but never met Professor Roger, and I'm hoping to.
Yeah, he's local. He's not far. You can set that up. Fill up the gas tank. I think he's up in Pasadena or wherever he is. He comes through once in a while,
Okay, very fair. Well, that being said, shall we segue into question number 3? If you could do the honors.
My turn? Excellent.
Yes.
Let's take a look. That's a big one. I'm going to go for the big one.
And we only have 97 more to go, everyone. So no worries.
Someone was very busy with the scissors.
You thought this was going to be a short video.
Not with me talking. Can you recall a time when a student deeply impacted you or changed the way you approach teaching? Can you, sir?
I can.
Can you deeply affected?
And it's not necessarily one student, but there have been some special needs students that I have had the honor and privilege of working with over the years. several of them had autism on some level. They were on the spectrum. And I do have one woman who I'm working with now, who's actually the mom of a couple of my students. She is pretty much without vision. She can't see at all. And years ago, I met a man named Mario Schaap, and he and a gentleman named Joshua Loya, who I've also interviewed on 52 Masters. Joshua's blind. Mario works with the visually impaired. And he contacted me and he brought a bunch of his students because they work with students who on some level cannot see. You know, somehow they're visually impaired. They might be completely or partially. And they taught a seminar here, and Sensei Mario said to me he'd like me to teach part of the seminar. And I was like, do this. But he kind of showed me, well, you always refer to 12 o'clock in front of you. You know, you have your 10 and your 2. 6 o'clock is behind you. You know, that's pretty standard. And then you change the way that you describe things. You have to be more specific. You have to say, okay, move your right arm towards your center line at high level. Move your left arm towards your center line mid-level. And that was a game changer for me. So not only when I work with my current student who I work with her once a week, privately, and she became blind because of a stroke that she had. So it wasn't like she was born blind. It was because of the stroke. It's not that there's anything wrong with her eyes, it's in her brain. So she cannot function. She really is, for all intent and purposes, she cannot see. But she wanted to get into something that kind of was physically, challenge her a little bit, get her body working a little bit more. And she's doing great. And it had to, change the way that I speak, but it carries over into all my other instruction as well. So it's not something that I necessarily use specifically for her. It's something that I can use for all the kids I work with all the people that I work with. I'm a better instructor now because I'm more thorough in my communication. I'm more clear. And it just kind of opened up a different way of speaking, a different way of being with them, and trying to put myself into their shoes where I don't just say, yeah, I just punch that way. Now it's very specific. I have to say, okay, now this is what I want you to do, and this is where I want you to do it. And I've become a better instructor as a result. And certainly it creates, a sense of patience where, you just have to, be with that person, and they have to trust you. And so, you're guiding them, and, they don't want to get hurt. So, you have to be very respectful and careful in how you work with them. And, even before you touch them, it's like, I'm going to, grab your right arm. Is that okay? Okay. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to place this collie stick into your right hand right now. And, so you get that confirmation from them so they know what's going on. So I would say that would be the number one situation that has changed the way that I taught.
Great experience to have. It's funny how students can change you. The question itself is really a thoughtful one or a wise one to even know ahead of time that, yeah, the student changes you as a teacher if you're an open-minded teacher. And then that it's a nice cycle there, right? We learn from each other, the student, teacher. In my case, rather than pick out maybe an individual, I had never intended to teach children as I was getting into my 30s. I said, why would I want to teach children? And karate, I'd kind of moved away from Shotokan or Taekwondo, and I was in the Kung Fu. And then there was an opportunity to teach karate to children. And I've been doing it for the last 17 years. I never stopped. And what was interesting to me, when I started, it seemed like, okay, well, I've got my A game. I can teach, and here's what I do. Here's my voice. Here's my mannerism. Here's my tone. Here's my attitude. And I'm a fairly likable guy. So maybe if you have 10 kids, maybe I'm reaching 3 or 4 really love what I'm doing. You get another 3 or 4 kind of indifferent, but they're following along. And then you get like the 2 or 3, maybe, they could maybe not come back. They don't care about you that much. One's just all the way over there in the corner. It really is not tuning into what you're doing. And so at first you think, well, that's their kids. What are you going to do? I'm giving my best stuff here. And then at some point, seeing other teachers work and seeing how the same child who spins off in my class is front and center on the other teacher's class. I thought, well, that's curious, because I can't get that kid to listen at all.
Interesting.
And maybe the superstar in my class is the one who's spinning off in their class.
Huh.
So that got me really thinking, like, well, it's not the kid, maybe it is the teacher. Maybe I should look back at me as an adult, and the adult in the room, you think, well, whatever I'm doing is okay, I'm the adult. But children are great in that they're very honest about, they're not gonna play polite and say, well, I'll just be quiet until the end of class and then I'll just quietly resign. No, if they don't like what you're doing, then they'll take off their shirt, run away, start screaming. They have no filter on that.
Sure.
So what I learned was to start doing impressions of other people, whether they were martial artists, teachers, or not. So I might come in as my mother, and I would put on her face, kind of use her mannerisms, kind of copy her tones. Kids don't know what I'm doing. And suddenly that one kid who's not listening that much suddenly is intrigued by what I'm doing. And I started realizing, again, it's not about me, it's about the material and the student. And in a way, not to be insensitive, but I kind of sense that every student has special needs.
Okay.
Diagnosed or not. I mean that some people come in shy, some people come in aggressive. Some people come in, they love loud noises. Some people come in and get spooked by loud noises. Some people want to be very physical. Some people would rather sit and think about things. Right. Some people get stuff right away and are very athletic. Some kids are just a little awkward and not as coordinated. So as a teacher, the better teacher you are, the more you really look at each student, whether they have a diagnosis or on the medication or not, everybody, adult, young, and say, well, what are you dealing with? What are you bringing in? And what, again, do I have to do to put you together with this great material called martial arts? And I found that the more I would get myself out of the way and use any face, any posture, any tone, any attitude, with this child I might be, or any adult, I might be really firm and aggressive, right in the eyes, very strong language, but then turn right around and then be soft and playful and gentle with this student. Right. This one I can speed up, go fast, and be loud. This one I'm gonna quiet down. Focus on one thing. And when you have that ability, what the young kids taught me was to get out of my own head and thinking that my A game was all I ever needed and start building that B game, C game, D game. And now just, I don't care what it is. If I'm losing someone, I'll experiment any way I can, all the different variables that we have, right. Which then in turn made me a better martial artist. Because obviously, if you come in with your A game, well, I'm gonna do this and that, well, what happens if the guy's too tall or you're already injured or there's two of them? So you have to always be problem solving to the people that you're dealing with. So like any relationship, whether you're the teacher or you're the student or this is a criminal, I have to be able to get focused on the goal, whether it's bringing material to a student or getting out of this situation alive and do whatever I need to do and just let go of the attachment to, well, but this is how I do it.
Gotcha.
So it raised me up as a human being across the board, as a teacher, as a practitioner, across the board. Working with young kids in general really changed who I am and how I see myself. So if that makes sense.
It does, absolutely. What was the name of your YouTube channel?
It's just Ando Mirzwa. I think that's it. And my company name would be Fight for a Happy Life or Happy Life Martial Arts.
Gotcha.
If that's what you're looking for. But
well, I think that you're doing it, and it definitely fulfilled a need, and people like and maybe almost need what you're talking about. And I know you've taken a break for a little while, but I would encourage you to go back to that, because there are people who follow you and who are probably wondering, hey, what happened to Sensei Ando? And it's always nice when it's like, you drop something and it might be just what that person needed for that day. So I
feel terrible now.
No.
I appreciate the encouragement.
No, but I strongly encourage you as a fellow instructor, as a fellow martial artist, and as a fellow content creator, put it out there again,
Sure.
Because it's important, Okay.
Yeah. No, you're right. Thank you.
No. But, I think there needs to be more of this. The people who are watching this right now are probably going, yeah, tell them.
There'll be two people going, that guy.
Well, of course. So,
but which is actually to your point, and to what I was saying earlier about every student is different.
Yes, sir.
Absolutely. Whatever I can offer from my face, my voice, you might put out the exact same content. We could probably, if we did an experiment, had the exact same script.
Yeah.
And both put out the same title. There'd be some people who came to my view and said, you're an idiot, shut up. They come into your video and go, great, you're brilliant.
Even though we said the same thing.
Even though I said the same thing. And that's what I find. So your function isn't just the information that you put out.
Yeah.
It's who you are as a person
Sure.
that matches up with that person who needs to hear it from that type of person at that time.
Gotcha.
And that's what I've learned from being a content creator. It's like what you put out is, you don't own that, and you never know who's going to be affected by it. And I've been shocked at so many times by a comment or an email that I get, and I think, I can't believe it had that effect, because that wasn't one that I wasn't thinking about that. Or I can't believe who I reached. I never thought that type of person or that demographic would respond in that way. So you're absolutely right. Whatever you have, if you're a teacher and you can share something, share it. And don't let your ego get in the way. Mine, I have an ego still. Sure, I'm working on it.
Well, we all
and you
do.
think, well, if my video didn't get 100,000 views or 1 million views, then therefore nobody wants to hear from me. It's like, no. If you have 1,000 views, that's still 1,000 people. Imagine if there were 1,000 people in your dojo. You put up a video, oh, only 1,000 views. It's like, if you had 1,000 people in this dojo all giving you a thumbs up to what you're saying, you'd be like, this is the best day of business ever. Holy smokes.
Absolutely.
You do serve a purpose. So yeah, you can't keep looking at other creators and going, well, I'm so jealous. They get these, look, they're not doing anything. They're doing silly stuff and they're getting millions of views. It's like, yeah, but that's not your crowd.
Yeah.
They don't need, your people don't need that. They're waiting for you to come back. So I appreciate that. You keep creating, I'll keep creating. That's fair.
Well, you know, by YouTube standards, 1,000 views may not be very much, but you know, as you said, if we have 1,000 people show up at your dojo, well, first of all, you know, we got to find out why 1,000 people are showing up at your dojo one day.
Free donut.
But you know, if you were doing a seminar or you know 1,000 students or whatever, that's amazing. So we have to kind of keep everything in perspective and you know look at it through proper context. And I believe that you know it's important because you never know who you know one person that you might reach, you know, through your message, through your content. I had a gentleman who, he sent me something to my dojo. I found this package and I opened it up. It was a book that he wrote. And there was a note that said, I'm a big fan of your show. You don't know me, but I wanted to send you a free copy of my book. I was very close to, I had a gun in my mouth and I was very close to pulling the trigger. And for some reason, I thought about some of the things that you say in your show, and I didn't go through with it. And as a result, my 2 boys have their father. And I was just like, you know, I had the goosebumps, and you know, it almost brought me to tears. And I was just like, gosh, you know. So it reaffirmed to me that you know we are doing important work. It may not seem like it. So you know, keep doing the work, keep putting it out there. It's important. And even if only one person, if that one person, you know, that's a very extreme example of saving somebody's life like that. I have no idea, but this person says that I did, you know, and I'm just glad that he chose to live. So you just never know. So,
That's true.
you know, I have a deep respect for good martial arts instructors, you know, martial artists like yourself who are doing the good work. And again, I can encourage you to keep doing that.
Okay,
you know,
yes.
for sure.
Slap my wrist enough times.
Yes, sir.
I will do my best. Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yes, sir.
No, that makes a lot of sense. Yep.
So let's go to the next question. And by the way, to our viewers out there, thank you again. And if we aren't asking the questions that you like, then put some questions in the comment section, you know, or direct message, and maybe on the next segment we'll be able to get to that because you know we want to answer some of your questions, you know, and hear some of your thoughts. So that being said, let's go to this question, and hopefully it's not too difficult.
Skip the big words.
Okay, describe a period in your life when martial arts was your refuge. So I'm going to let you start, sir, and then...
Between 7 a.m. and noon every day, and then again between 4 and 7 at night, and then midnight to 2 in the morning.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, when isn't martial arts your refuge? I mean, that is your, for me at least, that is your touchstone to come back to kind of rebooting the system. We get pulled into life, you get pulled into conversations you didn't want to have, or attitudes you didn't want to feel, emotions you hope to control at one point. And then when you have your practice, it gives you a place to say, whoa, okay, you went a little too far today on that side of things, you let that get out of control. tamp that down, bring this up. You should have said something there. Do you feel bad about holding back there? So to me, it's like an everyday type of situation. It's not like, I was really depressed in my late 20s and martial arts helped me. To me, it's always just been a steady friend, just always there. When I was a little kid, maybe you have a stuffed animal. I'm not saying maybe I did. I still have him. But you have that stuffed animal, and that's like your compatriot. So if there's anything bad in your life, you're being stressed out, whatever's going on, you go back to your bedroom, you got that stuffed animal, maybe there's some, or your blankie or whatever you have.
Yeah.
What did you have? Did you have a stuffed animal or a blankie? I felt stupid for saying it. So do you have, I'm going to pull you into it. Did you have anything?
Oh my gosh, yeah. Well, let's leave my Star Wars action figures out of this.
There we go.
Which, unfortunately, I got rid of because, at a certain age, I started thinking too much about what the girls thought of me, and I decided to get rid of certain toys, and I wish I still had those now because they're worth a grip today. So,
sorry.
But, around that age, around, 11, 12, 13, as you know, it's an awkward age. And I was a shy, awkward child, and what martial arts gave me was some physical coordination, and also when I was in high school, I went to a very small private school where the graduating 8th grade class was like 24. So when I went to the local public high school, it was a bit of culture shock, and while I did know some people, it was very intimidating. So it played on my insecurities, and I felt even more intimidated, and it became more introverted. But I always looked forward at the end of the day to going to the dojo, where I felt like this was my place, and I did know what I was doing, and I had a family there, and I had a sensei, Sensei Richard Rubago, who was he was great and a great leader and a great role model for me, along with the other black belts that were there, and that's where I felt was my home. So during those high school years, I would say probably were the loneliest times of my life because I didn't feel like I had any real friends, but I had martial arts, and I had my martial arts heroes, Bruce Lee and Benny Urquidez and Master Tadashi Yamashita and Chuck Norris and, people like that whom I really looked up to. Boxers like Sugar Ray Leonard and Lucia Riker and people like that. And then eventually, I developed the confidence and the self-esteem after I got out of high school. And then I met a couple of really good friends, and they taught me how to be social, how to read the room, how to read people. And it kind of went full circle. And now I'm able to, hopefully share that with kids and adults and help them empower themselves. But yeah, during that time, it was my sanctuary. It was definitely my refuge. And I don't know what I would have done without it. The thing that my mother encouraged me to do. Now, that being said, I was taking up the trumpet for 3 short months, but they were long months, according to my mother. And my trumpet mysteriously disappeared one day. And she claims she has nothing to do with that. She does not know what happened to it. But I am very suspicious.
You've not let this go, clearly.
I have not let
you
this
are still
go.
Bitter. I see it in your eyes.
Yes. I'm passive aggressive with my mother. Anytime trumpet music comes on the radio or whatever, right? It's like, wait a second.
Mangione sets me off. I get it.
Oh yes, Chuck Mangione feels so good.
Was that French horn or was that a trumpet?
It was actually a flugelhorn.
Flugelhorn.
Yes.
Good man.
And now I'm starting to, but in any case, that was my refuge. And as you are, as you said, doing it now. It has become sort of my, it is my fortress of solitude, to make a Superman reference, where I always have it with me, and no matter what happens, if the dojo should go away, the dojo is always in your heart, and the dojo is really the people that you surround yourself with, your students, your peers, your teachers. That is the dojo. It's nice that we have a place that we can actually practice that, but at the end of the day, as long as you have it here, I think that's the most important thing.
Beautifully said. Yes, sir. Beautiful. Wow. Can't put anything on top of that. Hallmark card. Woo!
Well, that's another business that we could probably talk about, yeah?
All right, yeah. Did we end up, was that the answer to that question? Refuge,
I believe so, Refuge. So why don't we do 5 questions? And
5's a nice number. 5 for fighting.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. 5 for fighting. Speaking of Superman.
Wow.
We're making some cool pop culture references.
That's a pretty good one.
A lot of the kids will not get, but you and I, we get them, and that's all that's important here.
Flugelhorn. Right? Never going to forget Flugelhorn. Yeah. Oh, this is a good one to end with. You ready?
Yes, sir.
All right, here you go. When you retire from teaching one day, this is already a fake question. When you retire from teaching one day, how do you want your students to remember you? Sir?
Okay. I hope that they feel like I taught them something, I shared with something that that helped them. I hope that they remember me as a kind, funny guy who taught them not only some cool moves, but gave them some tools so that they could become confident, committed, and empowered in their daily life.
Mm.
That they carry that with them, hopefully forever. And I hope that that's how they remember me. Not that, oh, that guy with the corny dad jokes or whatever like that, you know. I mean, you know, of course we're going to get that. But that's what I'm hoping, that he's like, hey, he was a really great guy and he taught us some cool stuff. And maybe they'll be able to pass it on to their own children. You know, something that is sustainable, that they can carry with them for the rest of their days and hopefully be of service to the community that they belong to.
Beautiful. Nice. Of course, the first part of that question was, when you retire, do you plan on retiring, or are you going to continue teaching till the day you die?
I'm going to continue teaching until I can't do it anymore. Sensei Fumio Demura, karate legend, passed away earlier this year. And, you know, he had a bunch of health problems. You know, he was doing dialysis like every day, every other day. But he was still traveling to Costa Rica, to Pennsylvania, to all these places. And, you know, people would say, Sensei, you know, don't you think you need to rest and stay home? And he was always like, this is how I go, this is how I want to go. You know, he wanted to go while in his gi, while teaching, you know. I mean, hopefully not in front of all the students, right, you know. But that's how he was, you know. And, you know, he pretty much did that. You know, he taught until he couldn't teach anymore, until almost his final breath. I would hope that I can do that. And if not physically, you know, as my body, you know, over time can't do certain things, you know, I hope that my mind can still function properly and that I can still teach, perhaps through writing, perhaps through content creation. But yeah, I want to continue teaching all the way up until the end.
You must. You're here. I think you should, because you've made this investment in your whole life into this practice as a student and as a teacher. So if you retire, why are you sitting on this treasure and not sharing it? To me, that's really a selfish thing, right? Martial arts ultimately is not just about your own self-development. It's about bringing it out and sharing it with others, being a role model so they can see you and go, oh, so that's what it's like to not be so scared about everything in life. Oh, that's what it's like to be strong or hold your own space or to deal with people honestly and clearly and to be a person of power, passion, and kindness. So with all these attributes to then hide in a old folks home somewhere or hide in your house or your castle, whatever you got, well, that doesn't serve anybody.
Sure.
And I think ultimately, once you've come this far, you wouldn't want that. Yeah, you would suffer if you did such a thing. I like that you mentioned humor, being a funny guy or sense of humor. I think that's important as a teacher. So for myself, being remembered, of course, you hope that they have some skills. That's on probably the base level. Because like you said, they could probably pick up stuff from videos nowadays or their old uncle who knew a couple of good moves. So then you have the next level. It's like, well, I hope you also remember that you're supported and you're nurtured and you should be gentle with yourself, be patient, and do it with a smile. Don't make learning suffering. And then I think maybe one more layer on top of that for myself. I hope they would just, when I think of my teachers and the ones that I still have affection for who made a big difference in my life, it's not so much the techniques, it's just the character that they were. Like I remember that teacher was a pure person. Like they had really, like I said earlier about they got to the art level. Like I want the idea that, no, you know what, Ando, he was Ando. He wasn't like his teacher. He wasn't like his parents. He was his own person, which I think ultimately is the greatest lesson that you can give a student. This is just be you. Know thyself, whatever you've got, express that stuff, and share it. And get your feedback, make your decisions about which parts you want to enhance, and which ones you want to hide or tamp down. That's up to you. Yeah. But remember that at least there was one person in your life that you knew, and that's arrogant to think you're the only one, but others, that as a martial artist, that your teacher, somebody for a while, was purely themselves. And they felt okay about that, and they weren't shooting up drugs or getting drunk and trying to wish they were somebody else. that they actually seem to enjoy it. For me, that fight for a happy life means that's the goal, not necessarily always happy. But if you can smile, that's whether being a funny guy or having that sense of humor, you can laugh at yourself too.
Yes.
This is it. This is, I think, as enlightened as we get. You have some knowledge, you have some humor, you have some humility, and then you have a big heart, you want to share that. And if you can be one of those people in the same way that you looked at your heroes and people who guided you along the way, I would hope that they could see me as someone, not just as a teacher like all those other teachers, but he was also very comfortable just being himself. Because I think that would allay a lot of their anxiety and their insecurities about themselves. I think that's a pretty important thing. So let's always be role models, not just good martial artists, hopefully, but really cool people who speak your own way, move your own way, just be your own guy. That's really important. You think?
100%.
Want to argue about that?
No, sir.
We have no disagreements about it. I was really hoping for at least one quick kick up to my face. I was ready to block the whole time.
Well, we can always save that for the next episode.
Okay, fair enough.
But I think for the first episode, this was great. We did some great talking and conversing and listening, and I thoroughly enjoyed myself, and I really look forward to the next time, sir.
Pleasure, Sensei. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. We spend a lot of time putting these videos together, so if you like what you saw, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. And give this video a like and a share to anybody you think might like it. And if you have any thoughts or suggestions on the video, go ahead and leave a comment. We make sure to read them all. Thanks, and see you next time.